I saw the pre-order for Homeworld 3 pop up on Epic Game Store, which is what prompted me to want to make this video. Now, looking into the history of Homeworld 3, Blackbird Interactive is the developer, which is perhaps the rightful heir to the Homeworld franchise since it's made up with ex-Relic employees. And Gearbox is publishing it, although Gearbox doesn't really have a great track record with Alien Colonial Marines and Duke Nukem Forever, but they did make Homeworld Remaster, which is quite good in my opinion. Today's topic is going to be pre-orders. I want to tell you a little bit about my experience as a gamer with pre-orders, and also I must admit I think I'm not the quote-unquote normal gamer, so I talked to a friend who I consider to be more normal. They're also a little bit younger, they play League of Legends, Genshin and all that, and they also do purchase new game quite often and do pre-orders, and also can be considered a little bit of a whale, and that's okay. But I did want to hear another perspective, which is the most important thing. I went and revisited Total Biscuit's We Don't Pre-Order video. It is as relevant today as it was 10 years ago when it was made. I'll put the link in the description. Although it was mainly about Colonial Marines, which was what triggered that video, it is still applicable to any other pre-orders out there. Now, before we begin, I'm gonna make a few assumptions about you. Once we get these assumptions in place, and we'll understand our goals are aligned, and we come from the same place, and our discussions will be more fruitful, and also less of a preach, more just a discussion. And please do let me know if you have a different opinion, if you think differently about pre-orders and all that. So first, I will assume you play and care about video games. Obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And also assume that you want video games to be better and the video game industry as a whole to be better, so we, the gamers, can get better video games. And I also assume you care about how you spend money and where you spend money and wish not to waste your hard-earned dollars. And I also assume you're an adult with sound mind, which is easy assumption to make. I also assume you think there may be some problems with the gaming industry as it currently stands, and maybe even want to do something to make it a little bit better. Now, my own experience with pre-orders starts long ago with Diablo 3. So I pre-ordered Diablo 3, I pre-ordered SimCity 2013, and that was terrible, and then I didn't learn my lesson. I pre-ordered Battlefield 4 again. All of those games have substantial problems on launch. I could not play for weeks, maybe multiple weeks, depending on the game. And it was just, in the case with Battlefield 4, it was just, you couldn't play the game, you couldn't connect to the servers, you constantly get kicked out. It was bad. So I said to myself, no more, I'm not going to pre-order anymore. And you say, hey, Michael, that was 10 years ago and things have changed. Have they? No Man's Sky launched in such a terrible state. It was nothing like what they said it was going to be, although it is pretty good now, but that's a whole nother topic for another video. Or what about Cyberpunk 2077? How did that launch? Not great. Or what about Gollum? That was a shit show, right? And that was, this year? And you say, what? Hey, Michael, I got a discount when I pre-order. I got some bonuses when I pre-order. Totally fair. I understand that. I used to be just like that. I want the skins. I want the extra cosmetics, the head starts, and all that good stuff that comes with pre-orders. I want those bonuses. Sure, those bonuses are great. I think when the games were cheaper, the bonuses was worth a little bit more. Back in the day when games were $49 or $59, again Canadian dollars, the skins may be worth $5 to $10, then yeah, I think those are good value. Or if you get a $5 or $10 discount, that's a good value. It's a substantial amount of money off a $49 or $59 title. Nowadays, though, games are $79 or $89, again Canadian, and suddenly the numbers don't work as well. A $5, $10 discount is not as substantial as what it used to be, and the cosmetics aren't worth as much. And in my head, these bonuses just look weaker and weaker. And of course, as I get older, I have other responsibilities and I have things planned for the money, which means I can't just throw away $89, $79 on a game, And of course, if we were gonna pre-order, at least make the publishers do more to earn our pre-orders, and not just to take things away from the full game and throw it back in as quote-unquote extras. And there's also opportunity cost to the money that we use for pre-orders. It's not just $89, right? It's money that we could have done other things with, like paying bills, buying groceries, or even investing, saving for retirement. All of that stuff are the opportunity costs for that amount of money. Like instead, if we pre-order, we lend that money as interest-free loan to the developers or publishers. And you say, oh, you know what? Yeah, if we don't buy the game before it comes out, how will we be able to afford? How would they be able to? The devs will be able to afford to finish the game. Sure, valid point. If it was like a small studio or 1-person or 2-person team, then it will make a little bit more sense. But at the end of the day, I don't care about the studios. I don't care about the developers. I care about you and I, the consumers, the ones that are spending the money to buy the game, the ones that are consuming the final product, the ones that will be paying for these things, whether it be good or not. Right? I care about you and I, us. And we should try to consume only the good stuff, right? We want to buy the well-made products. We want to buy the well-made furniture, right? We should be buying the well-made complete games. And by doing that, that signals to the devs they need to do better to earn our money. If they make a good game, they will make money. Games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2, these games are good, and they prove to the developers, hey, if you make it a good game, the consumers will come, right? We will pay for it. And imagine you and I doing our jobs, right? At our jobs, and we go to our bosses and say to our boss, hey, you know what? Why don't you pay me for the work that I will be doing in the futures? Like, what about the work I will be doing in 6 months? Why don't you pay me for that? And our bosses will laugh our ass out of the door. And the game developers or publishers should get the same treatment. They should not be paying. We should not be paying them for future work. And then you say, you know what, hey, Michael, man, I've done my research. I've looked at a bunch of videos, a bunch of different websites, a bunch of YouTubers, streamers. They all love the game, so I'm sure the game will be great. Cool, that you did research. That's really good. And it's important to do research to make sure you're making the right decisions. The issue is, though, any pre-launch material is highly curated. And the YouTubers, the streamers, and the media outlets, and they're all being paid by the company to play their game, to present a certain image, well-curated image. Even if money didn't exchange hands, the medias or the YouTubers, streamers, or whatever are provided with access, so they can get the content out early, so they make money with that early access, or that access from advertising or traffic or whatever. Now remember all those super cringy gameplay footage from Ubisoft they present at E3 and all that, Dead Island, the marketing material from the day before, all that stuff, all the pre-launch stuff is all marketing and should be treated as such and not to be trusted. I too have watched some videos on Homeworld 3 and they look great. Like all of the gameplay looks fantastic. The game itself looks beautiful. The designs and everything, it's amazing. It fits really well with the Homeworld history, Homeworld universe. But I don't trust it because I can't get my own dirty little hands on it, and I can't play it myself, and so I'm not gonna trust it. And even if you could get your hands on a demo, it's a vertical slice. It's a thin slice. You don't know if it represents the final product. And there are cases where the demos or the thin slice that was presented has nothing to do or very far from the game that was launched. And speaking of demos, what's the deal with lack of demos from AAA devs? Why not? Why don't you let us try the games, And if you really make a good game, I think the demo will sell the game better than any other marketing material out there. But I guess if we, the consumers, keep buying their shit sight unseen, why bother with making a demo? And then you say, you know what, I really want to get the pre-order because I want to play with friends. Cool, that is a totally legit point. And in fact, the reason why I pre-ordered Diablo 3, SimCity, Battlefield 4, and even Guild Wars 2 was because I wanted to play with my friends too. And that is, in my opinion, perhaps the only legit reason to pre-order. And if that is the reason why you want to pre-order, then I would say go for it. Although I would implore you to think before you buy, think about the track record for the studios you're pre-ordering from. Have they made a game that was good on launch? Did they experience any server issues on launch? What about day one bugs or patches? Or any other bad practices like day one content DLC like Mass Effect 3 or Tomb Raider? Think about the experience you will have on launch day. Think about if you're gonna have problems with servers and all that stuff, right? The unfortunate reality these days is that the games are not finished on launch. Not even close to being finished on launch, in fact. And companies want to make as much money as early as possible, so they launch the game in a state where they won't get sued, and that's it. Then if we're lucky, they may end up making the game better down the road. The other issue with pre-orders is that when the studios decide to do pre-orders, they're going to put in some effort into making the pre-orders more enticing, and sometimes by chucking in some cosmetic stuff, like in many cases, right? You get some skins, you get some in-game items, some in-game weapons that look different, maybe some fancy armor or some EXP boosts for a single-player game. That's not a big problem. I don't think there's any substantial content locked behind pre-orders like Tomb Raider, right? Not recently anyway. So I guess even the publishers or developers realize there are limits. They can't just keep pushing that stuff. And I guess the pushback from gamers worked to tell company, no, we will not accept substantial content locked behind pre-orders. It's not good for us. It's anti-consumer. So we just have to keep pushing back at the companies. It does work. Pre-orders also encourage companies to want to reduce bad press prior to launch, hence all the marketing materials masquerading as reviews or previews or first looks. They're all marketing materials as much as any other advertising or trailers, right? And us consumers will not be properly informed because we can't get all the information, and all of the information that we have out there is just marketing. And all the critical reviews or critical opinions are embargoed until after launch. But we can't get properly informed if all the information comes from only one source. And that one source have a lot to gain from us not knowing the truth and not knowing the critical side. So then I went to talk to my friend about the whole pre-order thing, right? Like I said, I realized I'm not quite quote-unquote normal, and I have preconceived opinions on pre-orders, and I have fairly bad experience with pre-orders, but I want to see someone who maybe didn't have as terrible of an experience as myself. What did they think? So I talked to them, and then they said they do pre-order, and they will pre-order if they know they're going to buy the game no matter what. As in, they'll play the game because they want to play the game. And even if the game was bad, they will still play it just to have some fun. For example, they pre-ordered Cyberpunk, and I asked if they felt like they were ripped off. They said no. It was fun even if it was in the buggy state, and maybe it made the game even more fun because of all the jank. And they're not too invested in it, so it's not a big deal. And then I asked them what do they think about the pre-order bonuses or discounts and stuff like that. And they did say those things make the decision easier. If they see the bonuses and whatnot, they will pre-order anyway. But the pre-order bonuses and discounts and stuff make their decision a little bit easier. But they will only pre-order the games that they are going to get anyway. So, the discounts help, but it's not the deciding factor for them on their pre-order. And they said they were going to get the game anyway, might as well pre-order for the little bonuses or little discounts. I then asked if they ever regretted a pre-order. They said no, surprisingly, because they already set their minds on buying the game anyway, so there's nothing to regret. So taking some responsibility there. And they also said they had more regrets with buying regular games, like everyday purchases, than pre-orders. Then I asked if they felt like pre-ordering is good or bad for the industry as a whole, like for the gaming industry as a whole in general. They said they don't see the harm with pre-orders, but the Steam early access is a much bigger problem, which I totally agree, and that's a whole different video. Then I asked about the day one DLCs. They said if it's cosmetics, it's not a problem, no problem there. But if it's substantial story content, then that is unacceptable. And I just thought it was interesting to get a different perspective, just talk to someone else about it, maybe not as staunchly against pre-orders as I am. It's good to hear other opinions. And if you have any opinions, if you have any other thoughts, feel free to leave it in the comments. And of course, at the end of the day, it is your money. You earn it, and you should spend it however you want. And don't let me or anyone tell you how you should spend it. And of course, by the end of the day, it is your money. You earn that dollar. You should spend it however you want. Most of my audience are in the 25 to 35 and 35 to 45 range. So you guys know how hard it is to earn your money. And wind doesn't blow money into our wallets. Maybe other than Bobby Kotick, but we don't get that. So it is important for us to consider where we spend a substantial amount of money. Games are costing upwards of $90 plus tax. So that's a lot of money and could be some families' monthly grocery bills. And just be mindful of where and how you spend your money and vote with our wallets and say no to terrible corporate behavior that harm consumers. And if you have any other opinions, please feel free to let me know. And if you agree with it, give it a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Confirmed. Pursuing targets. Standing by. Moving to destination.
Group 1 reports enemy